Hello, internet. There was a bit of a delay then before it kind of came back to me. And hello, because we're multi-channel these days. Welcome to the Ghost Light Social. You know what the score is. This is the show where we get creative people together. We talk about everything. We give each other hope, and we dash our fears. I'm getting this intro sorted. I think it's feeling a bit more together. It's really not displaying it tonight, but you know.
So how we doing, Mike?
All right, yeah. It's been a busy couple of days, to be honest, but it's been all right.
Right, okie dokie. Let's should we just get our guests in and get on with it, or what?
Yeah.
Very lucky to have with us Mr. Dermot Daly and Mr. Jack Brindle. How we doing, guys?
Hello, captains.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to both of you. Thanks for joining us. Very much appreciated. Dermot, how's lockdown been?
I mean, it's been liquid, mate. And it's been bloody long. Like, when is it over?
Well, Rachel said to me today, we're walking the dog this morning. Rachel said, do you now just feel like lockdown's over, but we just can't go anywhere? And I said, no, because I haven't got any work. I can't go to work. So because she's a teacher, she's going to work. So she just feels like it's, sort of back to normal, but without being able to do anything.
Yeah.
I was like, well, no.
Which is not normal then, right?
It's definitely not. Well, I'm saying it's not. It's probably quite normal for us.
All work and no play.
Yeah. Jack, how's it been?
Been good. Been long. I mean, for me, it was just I was so busy, working a few jobs, and then everything gets cut. You can't do anything. You've just got to sit all day on your ass and watch Netflix.
And Pornhub.
No, never.
No.
That's at night anyway. So.
Right. All right. So the first thing that's on my mind, because you mentioned it earlier, Jack, was it's killing you not being able to get to a barber, isn't it?
It is killing me. I mean, look at me hair. Look, I don't know what's going on. I'm used to like a fade and everything like that.
I've never ever seen you without a fade.
I don't know what's going on. I think it's all right.
It's great. It's great.
I think one thing that I've realised is like I've got some headshots like booked for a few months, and when I get them, I think I'm going to leave it like a bit more natural.
What about you, Dermot? Is the not being able to get to the barber's killing you?
Mate, seriously. I'm auditioning for Chewbacca when it comes back. Wait, do you know what, right? I kind of... Seeing humans is the thing that's really doing my nut in. Or not seeing them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And the notion of, let's go down the pub. Well, I wasn't going down the pub every night anyway, so it's not, not a massive curtailment. Seeing humans.
Yeah.
Just
I know, I'm with you. I say most weeks that if we weren't doing this, I don't know why I do, because it's my connection to outside of what we call the Methley bubble. The little place that I live, and we walk around with the dog, and I see lots of people and say hello, but that's sort of it. I don't see anyone else.
Yeah.
I was saying tonight, like literally the first time I've had to trim the bum fluff off side of my cheeks. And the side, it was like I was going out.
Had tunes on and bit of aftershave and.
Do you know what? That's really weird, because this morning is the first time that I've put some aftershave on for months. I don't know.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. It was just, I thought, bit of Sauvage,
bit of DR,
just to set the day off. Dermot, have you got a song for our playlist?
It's The End of the World as We Know It by REM.
Nice.
Solid choice.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
It's also a song that I remember dancing to when I was a lot younger, at the end of Very Messy Nights. And Skepta, Shut Down, again, for obvious reason.
Shut down.
Yeah, and it's also a banger. So,
Yeah. I mean, there's some good tracks on there, on the playlist, but there's some weird ones as well.
There is some strange ones, yeah, good. They don't need any explanation. Very nice. Very good indeed. Brilliant. Thank you, Dermot. Jack, what you got for us?
Well, I had one, but I'm just going to throw in a bit of spice that I heard today on the radio. So the song, is it like Dancing in the Moonlight? A remix of it. And it was like this real chill vibe. a remix. It literally, the first time I've heard it today, and I was just listening, and they were saying things like, "Oh, it's for we can't get on holiday, but this is a bit of a holiday vibe." And I whacked it straight up, and I thought, yeah, and it's the most kind of holiday vibe I've felt for a long time. It's like I think it's Jubel, Jubel, Dancing in the Moonlight remix. But the first, Lean on Me, Bill Withers.
Yeah.
Classic.
Oh, yeah. He died quite recently, didn't he?
Yeah.
A few months ago.
Yeah.
Time is relative at the minute, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on. Not a clue. I only know it's a Monday or a Wednesday because I've got a show to do. Good stuff. Any particular reason Lean on Me?
It came on Magic Soul. This were a few weeks ago, and I don't know why I didn't even have it in like anything, any like solo, any playlist that I might sing or anything. And it came on, and it went boom, 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 and I was just like, yeah. And every lyric from the start, I was just like, this is literally it. And then this, I think, a few days later, everything kicked off, in America. So
yeah,
it kind of all just fell into place as this is like a song. I want to sing this song one day and things like that,
I am really surprised you don't sing it because
I know.
you must sing all the others.
Well, it's not a Motown song, and then I've done a couple of solo shows, and it's just not gone in there. I've sang "Ain't No Sunshine."
Yeah,
I sang that at Christmas Eve.
So staying with you, Jack, most coronavirus thing you've done?
Binge Netflix. What I've started to do is I'm not far into it and watching different saves, on the most popular and things like that and trying things out. But I'm Googling best shows on Netflix, going to Rotten Tomatoes, going to IMDb, and just working out which one's worthy of me to
Your
start.
next watch.
Yeah. I
Are
tell you
you
what, I've just
triangulating your watching?
that's keeping me busy. That's literally it.
Wow.
Ozark.
Oh yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all 3 seasons. Season 3 came on, and I thought, yeah, and just the first episode. If that's a pilot, what a pilot that is!
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Really good, isn't it? Gangs of London.
whoa. Yeah.
Have you watched Gangs of London?
I'm on episode 6 as of last night.
Right. I think you're about where I am then, because I think that is. I watched the first episode. The first one's a feature length, isn't it? And that one, oh my god! I was just like, oh, I am hooked to this.
Like the way it's shot, the fight scenes, the cameras dropping,
I've not watched it, but it feels like the little bits I've seen, it feels like it's borrowing quite a lot from kind of martial arts cinema.
Yeah.
And there's lots of those kind of like Sammo Hung, like one of their best kind of martial arts directors. It feels very similar to something like he might have done.
My problem with Netflix is what you started talking about. My problem with Netflix is you go on there and you need some sort of filter to tell you where the shit is because it's everywhere. You know what I mean? You put something on and you're watching it for 10 minutes and you go, this is garbage. It's like the worst garbage I've ever seen. And you've just wasted 20 minutes of your life.
I mean, lockdown-wise, the thing is with me, I'll waste like 2-3 hours on something that's just absolute shocking, and then I just won't go back to it, and then I'll just see down the line, continue watching, and it's just there, and I'll think, no, and it'll just keep sitting there.
Dermot, what have you been? What's the most coronavirus thing?
Oh, mate, I bought a mask and I wore it. Like it went over my head.
Did you just buy one of those white theatre masks? With the.
You know what? I've got a half mask upstairs. The ones that come down to here.
Yeah.
And I was half tempted because the amount of people you see wearing masks, and it's like it's over your mouth but not over your nose. Well, what's the point, dude?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I might as well just go with the Phantom of the Opera nonsense.
Yeah.
Freak the living crap out of people. No, buying a mask and wearing it was a bit weird. If I'm going to shops and if I'm going indoors and wearing it indoors, this nonsense about wearing it outside, it's too hot, man. It's too hot. I'm not saving anyone's life. There's no one coughing on me, and if you are, I'll punch you. Like, shopping's really done my head in. It used to be the thing, like if you finish a gig or on your way to a gig or you've got an afternoon or something, you go, I'll just get a sandwich. You drive around to the shop and you look at the queue and you think, nah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the old days of internet, not now, but the old days of internet ordering. I used to be on the premise of I wouldn't just buy one thing from Amazon. I'd buy like 5 or 6. So I'd save it up and go, right, I'll order it all in one fell swoop. Now, who gives a shit, I want a roll of toilet roll or something, I'll just order one in. It's fine. Who cares about the environment? Do you know what I mean? Just keep driving, keep knocking on the door. Remind me that you were like, no. But like shops are turning into that, where it is that level of, I'm not going to buy a can of Coke. I'm going to buy a crate of it because I need to make sure it's in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I actually did that yesterday. I bought a pack of 30 cans of Diet Coke.
Good work.
I've never done that in my life. Never. Never.
It's changed.
Yeah.
Did anyone have like the rush at the start of lockdown, like when there was shops are so busy, there's nothing on shelves? Did anyone buy like, that'll last forever?
Jack, how many toilet rolls did you have at the peak of lockdown?
None.
Come on. How many?
So I'll tell you this. So I'm in Aldi. It's all starting to kick off, and I was at my mum's then, and we had a few toilet rolls, but I needed to get a pack. Anyway, it was the last 18 pack. So I went to the till.
Have you ever bought an 18 pack before?
Never in my life. And to be honest with you, I never really did the shopping. So I've got this 18 pack. It's there, and I'm just at the till, and I was just getting people looking at me. This is when toilet roll were just kicking off. Oh. So I even said out loud, I literally went, don't worry, guys, there's none at home. And this woman started laughing next to me and all this, and then I went, she had like a lot of tins, but it worked to be if she only had a few of each. And I went, you got tins there as well, love? And she just went, it's mad this. I don't know why it's all overrated. And from the start of all this, I kind of were a person who were like, this is a serious thing. This is my mate was on the tour of China, so he was dancing on a cruise ship, and so he was FaceTiming me, and it was just starting to kick off. Then the cruise ship got cancelled, and I actually drove down and picked him up from London, and so that was about six weeks before anything in the UK. So I were already a bit, but I wasn't buying 32 toilet rolls or anything like that. I wasn't that severe.
Well, did you go mental for the toilet roll, Dermot?
Nope.
Fair enough.
No, I tell you why, and I'll tell you for why. So I've gone to Tesco and they've had a deal on, I think it was 24 bog roll for like $8.50 or something stupid.
Wow.
So me being, the cheap git that I am, when do you know what? Say $8.50. That'll be all right. And then it all kicked off, and every day I came home and went, still got 22 rolls.
Smug mode.
For the next 6 weeks, just sell the rest off at 50%.
17 quid cut now.
Profiteering.
Thinking, mate, thinking.
You didn't do that though, did you?
No, I did not.
I've never really bought in bulk, but what I've found myself doing is sort of looking at the price of things. Yeah. And how much, but not just the price. Where it says like per item or cost per litre.
Oh, yeah.
So then you start comparing them. It's like, well, hang on. If I buy that, I know that's 12 quid and that's 7. But if I buy that one, that's £1 2 pence per litre. If I buy the other one, it's £1 9 pence per litre. So I'm buying the big one because it makes more sense.
The best one you want to do, right? And this goes back to your creative Coke. I started buying crates of Pepsi Max, and I blame Cash Arshad for that, because he got me into, here's my dealer for a bit, right? It got me like some Pepsi Max on a gig, and I've not stopped. But there was this like shopping trips at the minute, and you go in. I'm kind of genuinely thinking about what I'm buying now, because we're shopping every fortnight. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like a trolley full. It's like Christmas every time I come back. And you've got to check them out, because a crate of, this is absolutely true, a crate of 24 Pepsi Max was £9, and they had a special offer on the 12 packs, and they were, I think it was $3.50 or $3.70 or something. So this is me, right? I've put the crate in because I've just thought, crate, done. I've got halfway around the shop. It's not official in shops, but it's almost a one-way system. Once you pass the vegetables, you ain't going back. So I've got on the next aisle, I've looked in it, I thought, I'm going to go back. Took it out. 2 stacks of 12 in, got to the checkout. And she's looked at me. She's gone, why have you done that? We sell, the full things. I'm like, bring them through, sweetheart, and have a look. She went, oh, you saved yourself about £2 there. I says, exactly. Now, shh, carry on.
Do I think it tastes different?
Bottles to cans.
Yeah, I think it probably does. But that'll be all the aluminium in it.
Yeah,
Come on.
I just think you pop the can and you just have that first. It's different.
Satisfying.
It's different.
I think
yeah.
it's a different satisfying thing. Like a bottle feels like it could be warm, and you're at a kid's party and you're gonna drink out of them little shitty plastic cups. Whereas a can just feels it's all yours.
It's all yours.
Yeah.
That's it.
And there's a little tss, and it's like, oh, this is nice, and it stays colder as well,
And it gets recycled anyway.
Lads, what that? What has happened? What has happened?
Life has gone as we know it.
There's different things that are priorities now.
Yeah, cans of Coke and toilet roll.
Yeah,
Absolutely. All right, thinking about work, thinking about jobs, thinking about things. Dermot, what was the last thing you said to an audience or produced to an audience?
So the last thing I said, find the quote, or popular long-standing free community festivals such as South London's Lambeth Country Show, I had to retake that loads of times, suddenly have a heavy security presence, prompting outrage and boycotts. That was the last thing I did.
Okay, what was that? What was that for?
That was for a Guardian long read podcast.
Okay.
Which I did this week, a couple of days ago.
Look at him showing off with his work, with his lockdown work.
I know.
Mate, seriously, I'm getting whatever the hell I can. There's literally that point where you go, so theatres ain't going to be open for a while. We know that. TV is going to go to the names. Right, what can I do?
Anything.
What can I do? And I've had enough of doing Zoom things. A couple of podcasts I did with that, they go out next week, some point.
Nice.
So if you're into
the Guardian podcast.
Guardian podcast, yeah. So if you're into the long read, that goes out on Monday. And then there's another football podcast that I did before lockdown, which comes out on Wednesday.
Nice.
So, that's keeping me busy-ish. The one that's out on Wednesday is a story about Luton Town, a good few years ago, decided who their new manager was going to be via a phone poll. So essentially, and I don't remember this happening because
it's quite recent.
Yeah, well, it was when Will Young and Gareth Gates won or were on X Factor or Pop Idol or whatever it's called.
That could be 6 years ago or 28 years ago.
It's post 2000, right?
Yeah, it's like 2000, 2001, something like that.
Right, so about 20 years ago, right? But at the point where people realised, we can have a premium rate phone number and people will phone in and we can make money off this. So whoever owned Luton Town decided he was going to have Manager Idol. And he put up this is true. This is absolutely true.
I thought you were talking fiction at the start.
No, this is absolutely true. He put up 3 or 4 candidates, and there were big names in there. And he said to the fans, "Phone these. If you think it should be this person, phone." But then what happened is it got to a point where 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 4 managers went, "I'm not having this. Don't want it." Right. And the owner kind of went, "Well, I want him to have it." So they fixed the phone results. So the phone poll came in, but it was only worth 50% of the overall thing. And the other 50% came from stakeholders, which was essentially him. So he had the casting vote. And funnily enough, the person that he wanted to won it by 20 votes in the last hour.
Oh, God.
It's one of those stories where, because I got it, and it's proper journalism. And you read it and you think, this is nonsense. And then I spoke to the journalist and he showed me all of his sources. And it was like, oh, God.
Wow.
And it's all there. The facts and the interviews and stuff are all still on YouTube and all that sort of jazz. It's a brilliant story. Forgotten Stories of Football. It's a podcast series. Started a couple of weeks ago. And there's loads of amazing stories in there. Stuff, obviously stuff that I read, I voiced, I get. But I've been listening to them and they're just brilliant. There's one that came out last week and the week before, which was about a Jewish referee who had to fight Nazis and anti-Semites and all that sort of stuff while still being absolutely bang on with his job. Hitler trying to fix the football at the Olympics.
Yeah.
But there's just some really beautiful stories in there of kind of football's bonkers.
Yeah. So did you start this podcast, or is this someone you know that?
So this is The Guardian. The Guardian kind of obviously employ journalists to write stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of these stories are stories that have been released years ago, and they're wanting to turn them into podcasts because we're listening to more podcasts as we drive to work. Right. From my point of view, like from a prosaic point of view, it's work.
Yeah.
But it's actually, I like football.
Yeah. It's
Do you know what I
great.
mean? So I get paid to read stuff that I find interesting.
Yeah.
It's a double win.
And I was going to say the last thing you produced or helped produce was that the short film that you sent me.
Yeah. So I was asked by a good friend of mine, Tess Farley, over in Manchester, if I would help her make a film. So she got a Greater Manchester Cultural Authority, I think it is, commission. They were given that COVID commission, small pots of money to make stuff that goes onto a website, which kind of collates the COVID experience in Manchester. Now, I'm not in Manchester, I'm in Leeds. But I went to uni in Manchester. Manchester's like second home to me anyway. And I've known Tess for years. She was assistant director when I played Othello when I was young, when I could remember stuff. Remember all of the lines. Anyway, so she phoned and said, do you want to get involved? Do you want to help me to produce this thing? We've got these amazing people on board. I don't quite know what I'm going to do, but I want to kind of do a story that takes us around Manchester. Mm. So we had a couple of days of thinking, well, we can't go. I can't get our camera person out and go and film stuff because that's not possible. This was at the height of lockdown. This was you cannot leave unless you are literally saving people's lives sort of lockdown.
Oh, Dominic Cummings.
He was saving people's lives, mate, and my parental instinct is not as strong as his.
Your eyesight's better than his, though, I think.
Yeah.
We worked on this idea of a journey through Manchester. She's really inspired by French New Wave films, which is great because I quite like them as well. And I threw her a copy of Le Jeté by Chris Marker, which, if you don't know it, is the film that 12 Monkeys was based on. So it's all about time travel and cleverness. Putting the theme to one side, the interesting thing about that film, the reason why that film's always interested me, is that it is half an hour. It's a short film, half an hour, 35 minutes, something like that. And with the exception of 2 short sequences, everything is still photography. And the thinking was, if we're on lockdown but we're allowed a Boris walk every day, if your Boris walk, Tess, in Manchester takes you around the places that you want to tell the story of, take your camera, get some pictures. So she farmed that out. She did some. There was another photographer called Andy who was doing the same thing on his Boris walks. And we got something like 500 or 600 photographs of this journey through Manchester. And then we wrote the script. We've got a bloke called Ali Gadima who has the most beautiful voice to do voice for us, to be the character. And just taking us through Manchester. And we got so into it that we completely forgot why we were doing it. We completely forgot not the heart of it, but we forgot that it would have the effect that it does. We finished it. It's all in black and white with a couple of sequences that are in colour. Stylistic choice, again, back to Goddard and all that sort of stuff. But it went out live on United We Stream over in Manchester on Saturday night. And obviously our website went live, and it went live on the COVID Commission's website in Manchester. Tess really wants to start a conversation in Manchester about how we're dealing with COVID and how we're dealing with, or how Manchester is dealing with its citizens and helping them out and kind of guiding them through and holding their hand. Or if you're in Manchester and you can watch it, please do. And then go to the website, which is, I think, we still believe in lovefilm.com or something like that. I'll send you the link if you want to put it up for us. And on that site, there is a place where you can kind of talk about your experiences and what you think the local authority can do. And I think it goes beyond COVID. And I stopped using the term, but a lot of people are still using the term when this is over. And I think we need to realise that the fingers of this period of time are going to reach way through the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. If you think about the generation of school kids who haven't got exams or haven't been to school or are starting late and all that sort of stuff. And we don't know how that's going to affect us all. So I think the lovely thing about the film is that it's a time capsule. It kind of holds that period of time. And it's really emotive. I mean, I watched it, and I would say that, but I watched it for the first time in a couple of weeks on Saturday when it went out, and it got me again. and I remembered why I agreed to it in the first place, because I thought it had that power.
It's interesting because it is really emotive. I was going to ask you who'd written it, but when he's walking along and there's the guy walking behind him, and he's saying he's still there and he's followed me around a corner, and of course he's not following him. He just wants to go find somewhere to eat his Monster Munch or whatever it is that he's bought. And it is beautiful, and it absolutely does capture a moment which in many respects doesn't necessarily have to be this moment. There is something quite timeless about it as well.
No, I mean, I would love to take all of the credit for it, but it's Tess's baby. She kind of wrote the script. She spoke to a lot of people. I spoke to quite a few people, and we kind of fed a lot of the things that I've spoken about in the film are real. There was someone who thought he was being followed. There was a bloke who walked out and was almost run over by a cyclist. There was the kid who turned to his mother and said, "They're clapping for you, Mum." There are those moments which are real, and they're peppered all the way through. And essentially what she did was she took that and weaved it through this journey around central Manchester, out in Blandcoats, and it's glorious. It's really glorious.
And actually, although there are so many Manchester references in it, it actually could be anywhere as well. It could be any city.
There are only a couple of mentions of Manchester in the whole piece. The title card tell us it's in Manchester at this point, but it's a northern town.
Yeah.
And I think the problems and the issues with COVID will be replicated not just across the north, but everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great. And Mike, I will send you the link. I'll do it almost immediately.
I want to say, because I really want to join in, because that sounds amazing. I love that. I mean,
you're literally just talking it up. Oh my God.
Lee knows what I'm like for stylistic choice of camera moves and all that kind of stuff, and he's just like, no, it's just a fucking medium, and I'm like, well, so that just sounds right on my street, man. That sounds great.
Good egg. Nice one.
Yeah. I tell you what, listen, this could be an art show, couldn't it? You know what I mean? We're going up in the world, Mike.
It's kind of meant to be. That's the thing. We just talk about bloody Bogrel too much.
Fair enough. Okay, Jack. Not that I'm expecting you to follow that particularly, because you'll just do that your own unique way. What was the last thing you did to a live audience?
Last thing to a live audience, I was doing a movies tribute show. So it's things like Grease, Dirty Dancing, Mamma Mia, all things like that.
Excellent.
And the last thing I said is good night. But this was just before. This was when I'm there on the gig. I'm thinking, are we going to carry on this? What's going to happen? Is there going to be a lockdown? At that point, it had just been like NHS, that all the washing things were up, and you started to take things even more seriously than you already do. And I was at a holiday park actually. And it was like a Pontins, and it was full of 60 to 80-year-olds. And I was at this current point, you'd heard little bits about COVID, and it was right. The elderly are affected heavily, and they're most at risk, and all these kind of things. And I just on the way down, I was just thinking, there's not going to be no one there. It's not going to happen. There's going to be no one there. It was packed. It was honestly packed. It was rammed, and you were just these bless them. These are the lovely kind of gigs because, it isn't like an office Christmas party and all the people don't want to be there. These are people that they're appreciating it. They're not up dancing all night, because there's probably not going to be that active. They're all sat. They're all looking. There were a couple who wanted to get pictures at the end, and it wasn't clear about what's what at this time. So obviously, I'm literally like, oh my God, I was, we were kind of standing away from people and everything, but yeah, so that was a great point because I didn't know where the path led. I didn't know there was going to be nothing for so long.
So was that a gig that you did solo, or was that it was
a group? Yeah, there was me and three other girls, Lauren, and
Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren, all the Laurens. I think honestly, I think it was Lauren, and quite a new girl too. It was called Laura. Honestly,
Laura Lawrence. Fair enough. Did you have a load of gigs booked in that just got cancelled, or how did that work? Yeah.
Well, it started off. I worked for a couple of companies, and you were hearing different things from each company, and then you were hearing stuff on the news. But I think it was more everyone in the country was hearing the same thing on the news.
Yeah.
And then everyone was getting the information at the same time. Like, as in, I'd looked to my bosses for the kind of answers, but I don't think anyone had them till the line was drawn. Everything's shutting. I was meant to be doing a gig in Liverpool, and there was talk. Are we going to go bringing those on mics? Then how are we going to do it with us lot? Are we going to be standing together? Well, obviously, yeah, because at that point it was, you won't get COVID and things like that. It wasn't as high stakes as it is now and should be. I think what's kind of happened is the Christmas block, the busy period for like the tribute industry and things like that, it's still there. I don't think there's many cancellations because I think it's kind of fingers crossed, all the venues as well. It's their busiest time of year and everyone's kind of praying. But then, you've got, are people going to come? When it comes to the performers, everyone here in his own little world, when it comes to going back to work, what is it actually going to be like? The simple things, like you guys miking someone up. You know what I mean? When it comes to like that alone, it's like...
Just reminded me of something, though, when you were talking about live instruments, and it's slightly related.
Right.
But did you know that trombones, I believe it is, have to have a perspex shield between them and the row in front in an orchestra anyway, because the speed of the air coming out of the end of it is faster than the speed of sound.
Get out.
Yeah.
What?
So if you ever look at especially...
That can't be true. That
No,
can't
that
be
can't
true.
be true.
because it wouldn't make a sound.
It would, because it's the speed of sound.
No, but if it
It's
okay,
faster.
but if it was faster than the speed of sound, then you just have booms every time they tried, right?
I know, it's weird. When I first heard it, I was a bit like, really? And then I kind of listened more. It was quite good. And it was on a reputable source. It was on the No Such Thing as a Fish podcast, which is the QI podcast. So their stuff is going to be well researched.
Well, I would question their validity.
But it's weird. I've seen photographs of orchestras and there are perspex shields between rows and stuff.
Maybe they just don't like each other.
Yeah, maybe that. Which would be great.
Speed of sound, come off it.
If you don't like somebody, just stick a thing around you.
And anyway,
I'm going to Google it.
If that is true, right? What's the distance on that then, Lee?
God,
20.
2.5 miles.
yeah, at least.
Some fella walking that road going, what the chuff?
Yeah. Trombonists, they don't do anything anyway, do they? So we might just get rid of them. Favourite moment?
Probably the first time on, the professional set, and you're thinking, right, this is it. You see all these people that you want to get to somewhere near them, and you're just there, the camera lighting, yeah, let's go for a rehearsal, camera, I had 3 days of filming. I just remember chatting to everyone and just thinking, this is reachable. I'm in that group. I can see my path, and however it comes, I'm excited for it. So yeah, it has to just be that, walking on the set and just thinking, we're here. When you watch things when you're younger about maybe an acting school or filming things, and you kind of think this is what it's going to feel like, and I got that feeling,
Really good answer. Nice one, Jack. Dermot?
I mean, I've been doing this for years. Like, I've been in the game for like 23, 24 years.
Did you want, that's meant, I'm 24.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I've been around for a while. So, yeah, I mean, just by virtue of time, there are loads of things that I've done which have just blown my mind. And it kind of riffs on what you've just said, in that idea of moments where you realise that things are possible.
Yeah.
I did a musical years ago, which took over my life and gave me a lot. And there's an actor called Rudolph Walker, who you might or might not know. Rudy Walker now is I think he's still in EastEnders. So Patrick Truman in EastEnders.
Okay. Yeah.
Rudy Walker, growing up for me, was an absolute hero. He was one of the first black faces on TV.
Yeah.
He was in Love Thy Neighbour. He was in Empire Road. I mean, this was a dude that my mum spoke massively highly of. And we finished this gig, and he came upstairs. And it was weird. It was like this kind of weird kind of guard of honor, and we were all kind of stood there in the green room. It's like, Rudolph Walker's coming up. We're all like, bloody hell. So he's come up with this, and you'll like this, Lee. He's come up with this bottle of rum, and he said, "Don't line up, get yourselves a glass." So we've all got a glass, and he's come round and he's given us each a shot of rum. He's bought this bottle of rum, and it's a nice kind of 30-year-old. He spent money on it, sort of thing.
Nice.
Give us all this jar, and it wasn't press night. It was before press night. It was one of the previews. Giving us all this jar of rum, and each one of us in the cast, he came up to us and shook our hands and says, "Thank you for doing it." And I remember it was the first time that I can remember having the bravery to throw something back at someone that I really respected. And I said to him, "No, you don't thank us. If you didn't do what you did back in the 70s and 60s, then we wouldn't be stood on this stage. We wouldn't be given this platform. You know, I wouldn't have realised that this was something I could have done." And that for me is thinking about that today, and after what you've just said, Jack, kind of brings that home of kind of, he did that for me. And I always go back to that moment of actually, no, that not made it possible, but made me realise that it was possible. I got paid to watch elephants for a day in South Africa, as you do. Wow. I did a show where I had to play an elephant on stage. And it was co-production with Market Theatre. And we were in South Africa for a week rehearsing. And one of those days was on a safari watching elephants move.
Brilliant.
That is mint. It makes up for all the days of kind of having a job on a TV gig and you sat in a trailer for 12 hours.
Yeah. Blimey, those days of paying actors to watch elephants, they're gone.
Yeah.
They're not coming back.
Mate, I didn't even think those days existed.
Sort of hopes and fears for the industry as we start to go back?
I have, and I know you know this, Lee, and it's on my Twitter. I've been thinking a lot about what I'm calling live digital, of this kind of bit in between live theatre and film. I worry that some of the streaming that's happened doesn't really hit the mark. It doesn't hit the mark as a film maker for me. It doesn't hit the mark as a theatre maker for me. It gives me an insight into what it might have been like to be in the room, but I'm not in the room, which means I've lost something. It doesn't quite work filmically because it wasn't meant to do that. And I think there's a divot in the middle, which is kind of working out how we can have digital stories done live to allow us to monetize it, to allow us to make it special, to allow us to make it live, to drag in some of the things that we love about theatre and some of the things we love about film, but create something new. I can't see a 700-seater theatre being full at any point in the next 18 months with all the best will in the world. And I genuinely, desperately hope that I'm wrong. We, as humans, we tell stories. Stories are what keep us going. If you think like the conversation we've had, Jack spent a lot of time watching Netflix, and I'm sure you're not alone on that, mate. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We crave stories. We crave a narrative. We crave connection. And I think this isolation period has made me realise that that's part of the reason why I tell stories, is to connect with who I am and to connect people to each other and to connect me to those people. So I think going forward, coming out of this, I think once we are able to convene in theatre spaces again, those spaces need to be democratic. They need to have voices. They need to have voices that are not just paid lip service to, but voices that are listened to and that are given the same opportunities. And I think, we're talking in the long shadow of Black Lives Matters and all of this kind of thought process and open talking that's finally happening. It needs to continue to happen, and it needs to continue to open spaces for Black artists and artists who are marginalised in various different ways and all the intersectionality within that. I'm not blind to that. And again, coming back to the live digital thing, that's part of the reason why for me it doesn't work. When you walk into a theatre space, you enter into a contract whereby you say, right, that blank stage, this can be the surface of the moon or it could be the inside of a vein.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to allow that suspension of disbelief to happen. Mm-hmm. Film doesn't do that. There's an explosion. Oh, yeah, there's an explosion.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason for me why live digital doesn't quite work. But I think it's rediscovering what theatre is and what it's for. Mm. And I think it's about telling stories. It's about folk tales. If you look at theatre outside of the Western canon, it's about passing stories on. Do this, don't do this, do that, try this, remember this. You know, we're having a national debate about history, which I'm not going to go into. But stories are where history is contained. It's not contained in monoliths or bits of iron or brick or whatever it is. It's contained within stories. And stories are contained either in books or in your heart. And both of those things need to be opened. We need to open books to work out where we are, and we need to open our hearts to allow that stuff to connect.
Yeah, I think difficult conversations are like starting to be had. You know, I mean, from my point of view, 24. You know, I've not been in the industry, any amount of time at all, and I don't know. I've come across times when I suppose I've just felt, that's a funny comment, or and it kind of just goes over my head. And I mean, I was brought up by my mother, and she's white, and I was never really around my black side of the family. I suppose me just thinking, I'm locked in my house, sort of thing. Everything's gone on with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm researching, I'm reading up, I'm educating myself, and I'm kind of, when you say we kind of say a bit fearful about what the future holds, I'm excited now because this change is happening for me at the point I'm at. Because things are going to change. A lot of things are going on in the world right now, and people are feeling like, big companies are speaking out, and because they have to change now because there's a line. It doesn't matter what the people at the top actually believe; they've kind of got to do it. So for me, I'm thinking, well, as time goes on, that means the next generation is just going to be, embedded. There's going to be no questions asked about that. As we look back at history, things have changed, and generation after generation, people are saying now, well, that was years ago, this was years ago. And yes, but with change, it becomes normality.
I've got to be careful how I phrase this. I saw something recently that talked about making the conversation comfortable. No.
Yeah.
No. It should never be comfortable.
No.
It shouldn't be. Because when we talk about the Jewish Holocaust, it's not a comfortable conversation because it shouldn't be a comfortable conversation.
Right. Yeah.
This has to be a difficult conversation, and it has to be one that continues to happen.
Yeah.
And it has to be one where we all work out, well, where is our place in this? And I don't mean to sound patronizing, Jack, at all, but I feel like for me, it's part of my responsibility, my generation of black performers, to push something back so you've got somewhere to walk into in the same way that Ruby Walker did for us.
100%.
And you've got that same responsibility for those younger performers and artists who don't even know they're performers or artists yet.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, turn on a light and it's sorted. It's gradual change, and the conversations that need to happen, some of them are happening, some of them are not, and I fear that some of them will just disappear.
I hope they don't, because it feels like that's what feels different to me at the moment, is that those conversations are starting to happen where they haven't happened before. And you're absolutely right about the fact that it has to be uncomfortable. It has to. And this is, this where this whole thing with, the statues and people protecting statues and stuff. It's like, what are you doing? It's not about the statue. It's
even within that, the education principle is, I spend a lot of time around the country, and I've got mates all over the place and a family all over the place. And Bristol is somewhere that I absolutely adore. And what wasn't thrown out at the time when that man was thrown into the water, Bristol have been talking about that for 20 years or more, 25 years or more. They were trying to do something about it democratically. It didn't happen, and not one fist was thrown when that statue went in the water.
No.
Not one fist was thrown. It was celebratory even.
It was absolutely celebratory.
And a lot of people that I've spoken to, and the media in general, didn't massively report the fact that Bristol have been trying.
I lived there for a short time, early 2000s, and there were conversations about it then.
Yeah,
the amount of people that are coming together to agree, worldwide, it will create a change. I wrote something on social media, and I had one of my close friends ring me and ask me, am I okay? Am I okay? And I was like, what do you mean, am I okay? I'm fine. No, it was just what you put. I said, well, no, I'm fine, yeah. And they weren't ringing to, they weren't ringing to say to me, am I okay? Am I moved by what's going on? They were actually asking me, are you okay? Why are you kind of speaking out like this?
Wow.
And this isn't by no way, let's just say how it is, this is no one who's racist at all, but they genuinely just couldn't understand. And after that hour and a half, long conversation, and this was after the conversation that I had, when I was in the garden at my sister's and we were all having this big talk, and I was about an hour there, and this conversation on the phone lasted another hour and a half. They just said to me, I got a text after saying, love you, bro, and I now understand. Just sitting back and thinking, do I want my kids to have to be in that situation? No. There should be no situation like that. Everyone is equal. And right now, things aren't that way. So we need to make a change.
Absolutely.
Because of the position that I sit, I will never understand. But I will absolutely, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, I will absolutely do my best to educate myself as much as I can and to educate my children so that they understand.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way it will change.
It's about asking yourself those questions. It's about thinking about, we've heard the word privilege bandied around a lot recently, and rightly so. And we all have privileges. And we all have unconscious biases, and we all think in certain ways because of the culture in which we are brought up in. But we need to really start thinking about that as a structural thing, as opposed to it just is. Because it just is doesn't have to be. Because it just is means that women don't have the vote. It just is means that unless your father was an aristocrat, you can't own a house.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It just is the reason why, bloody hell, a footballer is campaigning to feed 1.4 million children.
Yeah.
It just is, should not be that. And, props to Rashford. What we call him now? Daniel Rashford, are we calling him now?
Yeah. What? You cannot make a mistake like that, can you?
Right? But we come to a point in our country where we kind of go, business, to quote an American politician, Shirley Chisholm, business as usual politics should not be there anymore.
Yeah.
And we're all complicit, and we all need to think and talk and do.
Yeah. But fair play to Daniel Radcliffe or whoever.
He blamed it on Harry Potter. What the? Come on.
Mental, isn't it?
Is that what he said? He blamed it on...
Yeah. His kid's into the Harry Potter series and has been watching it recently and reading or something. Like,
to be fair, that's better than, I don't know, mixing up Samuel L. Jackson with the other black actor, which happened.
Yeah.
I guess it's better than saying, oh yeah, well done to Sancho. He's done really well there, hasn't he?
Oh no, could you imagine?
Yeah.
I could actually, which is worrying.
Oh, yeah.
Right, okay, look, time is cracking on, gentlemen. So very last question to both of you. And I think, Dermot, you've already answered it, to be honest, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's been your vice during lockdown?
Thinking, drinking, reading.
Okay, that could have gone anywhere at the end.
Normally in that order, actually. Thinking, drinking, no. Yeah, sod it. Yeah, let's go in that order.
Okay, fair enough. Jack, what's your advice?
As of lockdown, drinking. You were saying about crates before. I've never ever, I've got my crates and we're going out and things like that, but I've never had a crate in the fridge, and that is now a thing. So I think that if I've hit a mature point or an adult point, lockdown has given me that.
You've got
Stella.
You've got
are there any
XP.
in the fridge? No, I'll put it in the freezer for a bit. We'll give it, So there's been a lot of thoughts, a lot of education. Surprisingly to me, because let's not lie. There's been 50% of it has been gaming. I'll put that there. I'll put it out there. I won't lie to you. But the other 2 quarters, drinking and education.
Yeah, okay.
It's a good mix. It's a good mix.
Have you put any weight on, Jack?
Well, no.
Because you're a proper gym.
So I won't go on, but I was, you know, it was 5-6 times a week, eating well, have a part-time job also at a hotel. That
You've been doing a bit of modelling as well during lockdown, haven't you?
That was at the start, you know. Basic. What I'll say to you is, first couple of weeks training, 3 weeks not moving, and I used to have this. I used to count the steps, you know, on the Heart app on my iPhone when I was at the day job, and you know it was like 20,000 steps. Wow. Gym. I'm being serious, gym. And I was kind of still eating well, but then I'd have, you know, the odd thing. And just because one thing I've learned is where the beer belly term comes from, because alcohol, it is
amazing.
Yeah, well, amazing, and a killer for the bod.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been back training a few weeks now. I'm feeling better, you know, and it's kind of there is an end. There is the end, like, oh my God, let's start thinking about how I'm gonna look if the jobs start to come in, from my point of view. And
yeah, I've been thinking about that as well. Yeah.
You're beautiful, Lee. Now that is coming from me. I have seen Lee in female underwear. Up close.
Let's just
up close.
Let's not give any context and leave it at that, shall we?
I was in gold boxes as well.
Whoa.
What's this?
This is the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
And I'll ask one more time. Did you touch my bottom?
I did numerous times. And I'll tell you what, and I'd do it again. God damn it.
Hopefully we do.
Absolutely, hopefully we do, yeah.
I'm going to have to talk to my agent after this.
It's not all work, you know. Listen, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yep.
You've wrapped up my my Wednesday. It is Wednesday, isn't it? My Wednesday evening. It's lovely to see you both. Much love to both of you. Stay safe, stay well, and speak soon.
Thank you both.
Pleasure.
Okay, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Very good, Mike.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I love it when you listen to somebody who A, knows what they're talking about, and B, is really passionate about it, and has an idea of what to do with it, with those things. And it is inspiring, you know, absolutely, to kind of, I just wanted to follow and just do everything. Great. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Okay. Ed Heaton and Rich Huxley coming on. Both musicians, producers, been around sort of the Leeds circuit for quite a while, and the rest of the country as well. So very much looking forward to catching up with them.
So thanks for watching. Whether you've been on Twitch or YouTube or Periscope, don't forget to like and subscribe, to comment, to find us on Twitter, check out our new things.
Can we sign off? I really need a wee.
Yeah, let's just do it. I'll just roll the credits. Just be really, really unprofessional and just go bye.
Thanks for coming on.